be talking about the innovations and uniqueness points that we have about our approach to data to action. And I'm gonna relate it to our bodies. I'm not gonna teach you guys biology. I'm sure you know more than me, but it's really exciting how everything works in tandem in our body to deliver this connected intelligence that we live every day. So let's start with these different innovations. In the next slide. So I'll start by our neurons. Again, I know a little bit about neurons, but I know that they are very fundamental units that helps us to send and receive signals in our bodies. And this is, the neurons is actually what helps us to move our muscles or feel the external world, think or form memories, etc. So it's really that thing that allows to move everything in our body, all kinds of messages. And this is what TIBCO messaging delivers. It allows us to move the data around our enterprise reliably and in a guaranteed manner. And just like how we have different types of neurons in our body, so we have sensory neurons, we have motor neurons and interneurons, and every one of them, they have like its own specialty and its own data pattern access. And this is the same thing applies on TIBCO messaging and what we really see in our organizations. Today, not one messaging capability can serve all the needs that we have in our organizations. We have cloud messaging, we have we need messaging probably for a big data platform. For our log messages, we need to have peer-to-peer messaging, we need to have JMS-based messaging. And what the innovation here, as I said before, I'm going to talk only about the innovation. I'm not going to try to explain really the power of every single product. But the innovation here is that we have one single messaging platform that allows you to deliver the right messaging capability based on your requirements. So if you want to do JMS messaging, we have TIBCO EMS. If you want to do Kafka, we actually now today distribute and sell Kafka and support Kafka messaging. If you want to do MQTT messaging, it's there. We distribute MQTT based on the Eclipse Mosquito distribution. If you want to do WebSockets messaging, we have TIBCO EFTL. If you want to do really special for traders and for trading platforms where every milliseconds is important, then we have TIBCO Faster Than Light, a peer-to-peer messaging, the fastest messaging platform on earth. And lately we've added Apache Pulsar, one of the new picking up messaging solutions. So it's literally like neurons. You have all kinds of neurons, you have all kinds of messaging capabilities available to you in a single bundle, supported by the guys who actually invented messaging. If we go back in history, if you look at TIBCO guys, it stands for the Information Bus Company. When we started 30 years ago to digitize Wall Street, until today, probably we're running around 2 billion messages in NASDAQ. This is our bread and butter. So when we give you Kafka and we support you in Kafka, that's where you will get a huge benefit out of that. So that's really the first innovation that we have in this data to action. Let's move on to the next innovation, which is around really our central nervous system or our spinal cord, which basically in our body, it carries the different nerve signals from the brain to the other parts of the body. It basically orchestrates all the work in our body, commanding muscles what to do, how to move. It receives sensory input from the neurons, from the messaging. So it transmits information to the brain. So it's basically doing everything. And that's what TIBCO BusinessWorks allows you to do. It connects all your transactional and non-transactional applications. It orchestrates all of that data by allowing you to develop those integration and orchestration flows or even microservices. But the innovation, I don't want to really talk in details about it. We're going to cover that hybrid integration story in our next webinar that I encourage you all to attend. But really the innovation here is that in TIBCO BusinessWorks, it's adjustable and it can work with any deployment that you have without the need to change your code. So it has that amazing concept that we call build once and deploy anywhere. So you can write your microservices once, your integration flow once, and then probably today you need to deploy it on virtual machines on premise. Tomorrow, you need to package it and as a Docker image or as a Cloud Foundry build pack and push it to private or public clouds, or to AWS Kubernetes or Azure Kubernetes or Google Kubernetes or OpenShift, pivot to Cloud Foundry. You can do this with the same code. Or probably later on, you're gonna tell TIBCO, I don't have my infrastructure ready, and I want you to manage that. So you deploy to TIBCO iPaaS platform, TIBCO Cloud integration without the need to change anything. That's a very, very unique proposition in the market that gives you this huge flexibility, which is very much, I'm working with different customers today, and because of the COVID situation, they found themselves in a situation where they're not able to bring hardwares to their data centers. So though that they've been resisting to go to public clouds, but they had no option. So they started to, they changed their not the architecture, but they changed the philosophy, and they decided to, okay guys, we're gonna deploy things to AWS Kubernetes services. And guess what, guys? Whatever they've done with what they've been developing for their on-premise deployment, they can take the same code, deploy it to AWS Kubernetes, and they've been appreciating that big time. So this is a really major differentiator. So moving to the third innovation, which is around our DNAs, guys. DNA is really the most critical part. And if we relate it to the IT world, it's really it's all about our metadata. It's really what allows us to understand and govern the systems, the data, and ultimately the business. It helps the business to self-service the data catalog, explore it, search it, and provision data. So let's say that you are a data scientist or a business analyst, and you need a data set that helps you with a certain analytical job that you have. Metadata can help you with that. It can tell you what's the best sales data set, the most clean one, the most up-to-date one that you can use for your job. So this is really very crucial step in this whole data to action, because it really shortens the times that those data scientists and business users that they spend on accessing the data and accessing the right data. So TIBCO Cloud Metadata, it's a new offering from TIBCO that helps you to manage your entire metadata in your organization. It helps you to deliver it as a data catalog that business users can search and collaborate from a very intuitive business interface. And what's interesting about it is it comes with a harvesting tool. So it can really go, you deploy it in your ecosystem, it can go and extract those different metadata and expose them in the different and the tool itself in the business interface that you have, and then you can easily access it. So DNA, our metadata story, is very powerful and pretty much needed for the whole discussion. Moving on to the next one. And as I talked about data virtualization, it's one of those innovations. To me, this is, and the next one I'm going to talk about is really the top innovations that really differentiates TIBCO. And it's literally like our memory. So in our memory, guys, whenever we need an information, we find it there. And it's very easy to retrieve this data from our memory. And that's what data virtualization is all about. It's the ability to today, I'm as a business user, I need to access data that's coming from my data warehouse, from cloud system, from files, from XML. Am I going to wait for the whole ETL data warehouse cycle that might take weeks and months? Can I afford to do this for my business? Can I afford to really have that too late architecture? In most cases, the answer is no. You need to have, and you need to access that data at real time. So this is where data virtualization comes into place. It creates a virtual data lake, a virtual data mart, a virtual data access layer that connects to your backend systems where they are. And when you need the data, it's going to go and bring it to you in the most optimized way. Again, it's a very interesting technology. I encourage you all to go look at it and the benefits that it brings. And the innovation from TIBCO here, the whole TIBCO data virtualization is an actual innovation by itself. But the innovation is what we've done lately, and we are now bringing streaming data into data virtualization. So now you can even virtualize, and that's amazingly and hugely benefit to business users, so they can access the streaming data via data virtualization whenever they need that. Moving to the next piece, which is our eyes and ears, and talking really about the second best innovation, which is streaming BI. I'm sure all of you are familiar with streaming BI. Sorry, with the traditional BI, where basically you have all the data in your data warehouse and your historical database, and then you just simply refresh your dashboards to get the data and watch your KPIs and SLAs, etc. But today, in today's world, this is not going to work. You need to be able to see the data as it's coming. You need to be able to not only query the past, but to be able to really query the present so you can predict the future. So really streaming BI flip the traditional BI on its head. It's a huge innovation. L'Oreal, if you can just click one button to play the dashboard here. Yeah, so if you look at this dashboard at the first glance, you might think it's a traditional BI dashboard, but it's actually it's a real-time streaming dashboard that's coming from our partnership with Mercedes AMG Petronas team, Formula One, that we're very proud of this partnership. And it really shows real-time location of the car, sensor readings from their suspension and tires, colors. They compare the current conditions to the history. Red means worse than last lap, and the green is better than the best lap. So you're actually looking at what's happening today. There is actually with Mercedes Formula One Petronas, they have 300 sensors on every car, on Hamilton's car. And you can visualize all of that at real time. You can see the car speed, car position, fuel level, gear level, pitch. Everything is live. So it's really amazing. It's very important to be able to streamline all of this data and to be able to visualize it at real time. Moving to the next slide, and this would be the last innovation that I'll be talking about in this whole data to action cycle, and it's really around what we call streaming data science. Again, this is where we flip the traditional data science on its head. Traditional data science is definitely awesome, where it works well for applications that involves conditions that essentially stay the same. So you have the same conditions, everything in your historical database. You create your customer churn model that doesn't evolve, which is fine for many organizations. They can live with that. But streaming data science, it's essential in many cases where conditions, they change frequently and in real time. And those real-time changes and events, they continuously helps us to score our data science models and update those predictions. So for example, when I talked about deploying and injecting those different data science models into TIBCO streaming, we can deploy Java models, we can deploy PML, R, H2O, even TensorFlow and Python models, and they're all can be executed against a sliding window that I can easily define in stream-based against any kind of streaming data, whether it's Kafka, MQTT, drilling data, maintenance data, manufacturing equipment data, all that can happen at real time. So streaming BI, streaming data science is really, and data virtualization is huge innovations and what we deliver. So moving to the really slide that summarizes that innovation and this cycle, and really my advice to you is you need to democratize this whole data to action cycle. It's just like our bodies, where each part that we've talked about today, neurons, CNS, the spinal cord, the memory, the brain, each part does his own job perfectly, and they all seamlessly work together and in tandem. And that's what we deliver to you guys. We empower you. We empower every team with the right tool that helps them to do their job, and everything then works together in tandem to help you get the right data for your business. We cannot just code everything like in the Kafka world. I cannot just go do Kafka and do KSQL and do everything in coding. We need to go with our business we need to be able to collaborate and empower the business, the operations, the IT. You need to, if I want to summarize everything, it's all about using TIBCO messaging, whether it's Kafka, MQTT for the sensory inputs, access the enterprise DNA with metadata, and access memory with data virtualization, use streaming BIs, the eyes and ears of our of literally the new modern enterprises. This is how it all can work together in tandem. So it's very important, guys, that we democratize this whole cycle and not to look and sell ourselves in coding or in one capability that can tell us how it can deliver everything. We have to democratize everything and look at the best that every tool can deliver in this whole cycle. Moving on to the next slide, and this slide really represents the cycle, the same cycle, the data to action cycle that I've been talking about in this webinar, and this is a collaboration that we are very much proud of with the Mercedes Petronas team and Formula One. And we've been doing this with them for the past number of years, and it's really and they are really perfect example of a digital leader or a data leader. They obviously Hamilton is a great driver, but probably with a bit of help from our data to action platform. It gave them the edge as well. So Formula One team, they rely on our streaming BI and streaming data science, and getting all the Kafka messages and getting all the data from the 300 sensors that they have. It's all about analyzing race data in real time, advising Hamilton and the drivers at real time with a very important thing, which is winning actions. And I think this winning actions is really a big summary for everything I talked about. Our aim is really to work with all of you guys to help you generate winning actions, not any actions, but winning actions that can help you to win in your business, beat the competition, disrupt the market, and survive in these unprecedented times. So moving to the next slide, and which is my last slide, and that really tries to summarize and put everything together, guys. So we've talked about this connect, unify, and predict a cycle. So at the bottom, you have the connect capabilities, your ESB, your microservices, your rules engine, your low-code applications, your APIs that connects and brings all kinds of data from your organization or from your partners, from on-premise, on cloud, from your IT devices, etc. Then we have the data management and the unified segments, where we have master data management, metadata management, reference data management, data virtualization that helps us to really deliver all kinds of exciting solutions like anything 360, data governance, data catalog, logical data warehouse is very, very powerful. On top of that, this is where we have the analytics capabilities from visual analytics, data science, streaming analytics that delivers crucial capabilities like AutoML, machine learning operations, embedded analytics, streaming BI, streaming data science. And the beauty again, and I'm gonna stop with this, is really every segment is unique by itself. Putting everything together is what differentiates TIBCO and what's gonna differentiate you guys to compete and have those winning actions.